Welcome to the crazy world of plants. It's a crazy world. The options, the genuses, it is crazy. Are you a new plant parent entering this crazy world and you want to go to the garden center and buy some new plants? Stop. Watch this video and really think about it. Take note of these plants. These are not the only, these are the top 10. I could probably do about 5 different videos on this specific subject, but these were the ones that popped into my head straight away. And these are also plants that I have in my collection. I haven't done any research or anything. I've just chosen ones that I have found so incredibly easy and that I think anyone can take care of. Hello everyone, welcome to my jungle story. I'm Jacqueline and I hope that you find this video useful and that you heed my warning before you go to the garden center and you buy all of your plants or you go on a crazy binge, to just take note and start off easy, because down the line you will thank yourself for it. So I'm not going to do these in any order whatsoever. I'm just going to bring them out and show them to you. Some of them I can't bring to you, but I will insert footage. But starting off is one of my favorite plants that I've had for a very, very long time. He's living right here behind me, and that is this big gal. So this is the Spathiphyllum diamond. Now, honestly, the reason why I specifically say this one, the diamond version, is because I have had a regular peace lily and I have had the, what is it, the domino, the domino version of this, I don't know. But this one has been one that has just thrived on neglect. I've actually also made a care video on this plant. If you're interested in that, I will link it down below. But yeah, it's just a really, really easy plant. It's one that you can just put anywhere and it's happy. This one has lived in a bathroom. It's lived in a dark bedroom. Right now it lives here on the floor. It does get light from the grow lights, and I do have to say I have been noticing a lot more growth since I've put her here. It's just kind of a case of figuring out where it works. But like I said, this has lived anywhere. It's also one that gives you the signs when it needs water. It's one that does prefer a little bit more of like a dense soil mix. So potting it up in your regular, your house potting soil that you can buy in the garden center, it will be fine in there. All I would do there is add a little bit of perlite if that's not already in there, just to start off. You don't need to go all crazy with all the different components in the beginning. I know that can be kind of a little bit like confronting, but just your regular house potting soil and add perlite. That's what I would do in the beginning. But yeah, this one is just a really easy plant. In my experience, you cannot go wrong. Lived high light, low light, higher humidity as well, out in the bathroom. Not really seen a big difference in where this one prefers to live. Like I said, it's giving me a little bit of like better growth since it's had a grow light. But for the most part, it's just really, it's easy. It's also lived on top of my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. It's just, yeah, it's one that I would highly recommend. If you do give it a highlight, you will have a little bit more variegation. I am noticing that on the newer growth, that there is just a little bit more splashiness going on. This one is definitely not highly variegated. I've definitely seen diamonds that are a lot more variegated than this one, but I don't mind, honestly. Maybe that's also the reason why it's so easy. I have no idea, but I mean, you get like the wow factor and the jungle factor with this one very, very quickly. It's also quite a fast grower. I bought this one when it was very, very small, very small. I think it only had about 4 leaves. And yeah, it's just, I don't know what else to say. It's so easy, so easy. Next up is a Hoya. I don't actually know the right way of saying the name of this Hoya. It's Gracilis or Gracilis, or I'm not 100% sure. But that plant, I have had that plant for probably about 3 years now, and it was right in the beginning when I wanted to experiment with Hoya, and I hadn't quite figured it out yet. And actually, funny enough, recently I gave that plant a lot more light, and it also gets a little bit of light from the grow light, and it has just exploded in growth, and it is so incredibly easy. It's actually still in the original pot it was when I bought it, so I probably would need to repot that plant. But yeah, it's just, as you can see, it's a really nice full plant. It just gives you the vibes that you want straight away, you know? It's also one that if you buy as a cutting, I think it would grow incredibly quickly. It's just, yeah, it's just so easy. Definitely prefers higher light. As for watering, I probably water that one less than most of my other Hoyas because of the dense mix that it's living in. It's the mix from when you buy a plant in the garden center. They're always quite dense. But it's really happy, gives me new growth continuously. It has not bloomed for me yet, but I've only this year been giving that plant the exact right conditions. But it's also a plant that if you have a little bit of like a more shadier corner, it will survive. The plant is never going to thrive if you're not giving enough light, but if you put it somewhere, if you want to like fill somewhere, I know in the beginning it's very much you want to buy a plant to fill like a certain area, but really you need to see it as the other way around. You need to give the plant what it needs, because that way that plant will thrive and will bring you a whole lot more joy than going out and buying a plant for a specific spot and it just slowly dying in a sense, or just surviving. You know, it's not going to give you the same amount of joy. So I would definitely take that in consideration when you are in the beginning going to the garden center and looking at plants. But yes, the Hoya Gracilis or Gracilis, I don't know. It is just a very easy plant in my opinion. Next up, now this one is probably on every YouTuber's list of beginner plants, and that is the Epipremnum marble queen. Wow, that plant has also been in my collection for a very long time. I think that was probably one of my first plants. I bought that as a teeny tiny little cutting because it is a marble queen that's a very marbly, and I don't know, for some reason it was a little bit more expensive than the other ones, but whatever. Now you can buy them in pretty much any garden center. You can find cuttings online. You can find that plant anywhere. You've even seen it in supermarkets here in Belgium. So it's just a plant that you can get your hands on very easily. There's definitely different varieties and like the variegation, like the marbliness. I've seen some. Actually, I can give you an example of one's cuttings that I'm trying to sell at the moment. But yeah, you can see here, this is a marble queen, but yeah, I would have inserted some footage of my one. This is a cutting off my one. And as you can see, some of the variegation is gone in some of the leaves. And I can see here, this is a new leaf. It's kind of coming back, but yeah, it's a lot less than the mother plant, a lot less. And that was just purely due to light. This one was getting a lot less light than the mother plant. So then that variegation does go away, it goes away a lot quicker. But the marble queen is also one that I've had living in many different types of conditions in high light. Never direct sun. I would never recommend direct sun for that plant, but it's lived in high indirect light, so not like direct sunlight, but very bright. It was more like filtered by like a thin sheer curtain. And where it's living now, I would definitely say that's a low light spot, if I'm being honest. This is a south-facing window on the front side, on this side. So, it is good light, but it's not, light travels downwards. So it's not really going to get the best of light there. But that plant has not complained because I have chopped that plant so many times. And also the conditions that that plant is living in at the moment is not actually the best, because the pot that it's living in there's no drainage. There is like a lip at the bottom where water can sit, so it's not in contact with the soil, but it's still not ideal because I can't really judge with watering. It's a little bit difficult. So I do want to take that plant out of there, and okay, I'm gonna have to wait because there's like a bus passing by and everyone in the bus is like looking at me. Okay, we're good. I've completely lost my train of thought now. Yes, so I need to take that plant, I need to take it out of that pot and put it in a pot where I can see what's going on and actually physically take it out of, you know, the sort of the decorative hanging pot that it's living in. So yes, but you probably would have heard this if you are in the beginning of this journey, seen it on a lot of other YouTube videos, that the Epipremnum marble queen it's just a plant that you I don't want to say you have to have in your collection. Everyone has their preferences, but it's just such a rewarding plant to grow. It grows like a weed. It is happy in almost any environment. It's just, yeah, I found a really, really easy plant. Next up is a plant that's actually right here. This is one of Mitch's plants. And this plant, wait, I need to, Gynura, am I right? Oh, yes, I am. Gynura Purple Passion. This was teeny tiny when Mitch bought it. It was probably, you see like this clump here in this hand, from where my hand is? It was probably about that small. That's how small this plant was when he bought it. And that was this year, sometime this year, I don't know. But it is such a fast grower, such a fast grower. It's also never had pests. I think that also has to do with the texture of this plant. If you have a look at the leaves, they're like soft and fuzzy. If you can see that, if the camera's picking it up. But yes, it's soft and fuzzy, and I don't know, there's just something about this plant that I just love. I don't know if it's like the purple like tinge on the leaves as well. When light hits it, it's like neon. It's like in your face. And it's just such a cool plant. It really is. I've noticed that like this tendril thing here, this is actually happening because it's probably not getting enough light. As you saw, I took it from the shelf here, and we have south facing on that side, north facing on this side. So this is like the center of the room. So it's not really getting like a good amount of light. We actually really want to get a grow light here and have it directly on these plants, because the plants here don't get enough light, especially in the autumn winter. It's I've noticed it's autumn right now, and they're struggling a little bit. Well, they're not struggling, but it's not the same. So yeah, that's when this type of growth happens, where it's very, very leggy. The leaves are a lot smaller, whereas if you compare it to this one at the bottom here, it's very full, bushy, and the leaves are a lot bigger. And this one is actually kind of stopped growing for us, but that is probably also due to the fact that it might need to be potted up. That is, I don't know if you can see, that's the root system. It's a very, very thirsty plant, I do have to say. I would definitely put this plant in a more dense mix. This isn't a very chunky mix. In general, we use a lot of bark and perlite in the mix that we make, just for most of our plants actually, but there are specific plants where we do need to adjust. Seriously? Where we do need to adjust the mix a little bit, and this one would definitely benefit of a more dense mix because it is a little bit more on the thirstier side. And I think then it will be perfectly happy. But this plant, when it needs water, it does give you the signs. The leaves become very thin and like droopy. It's very, very noticeable. It gives you the signs, and it doesn't throw a fit if you miss it for a day or two. Definitely not. and it bounces back very, very quickly when you give it water. But yes, it's never ever had pests, never really given us any grief, grows incredibly fast, is really cool looking, like it's very unusual compared to, I don't know, most plants that you see in garden centers. I don't know, there's just something special about it. But obviously it's also got to do with preference and what you like and what you don't like. This was one that when it was a baby, I actually didn't like. I think it looked like a weed, and it has grown up to be so incredibly beautiful, and like it just sticks out. It really does. I don't know if like the purple, it's not really going to pick up on camera. It's so like, it's like neon purple. It's a really, really pretty plant and very rewarding to grow. I had to go and get this plant out of its spot. It's kind of big. This is a Philodendron Florida green. And I bought this plant I want to say the beginning of this year, or maybe it was the end of last year. Honestly, this plant, it just kind of is in my collection. It's very hardy. It doesn't require a lot. I don't know. It's just very, very easy. I'll show you the roots in the pole. But I mean, yeah, it's just a very, very easy plant. It climbs very easily. The internodal spacing is also not, like you have some plants where you can only, on a moss pole like this, you would only have like 4 leaves. Those types of plants, unless it's, you know, one that I really, really like, I usually don't go for that. But if you're looking for a plant, it doesn't necessarily need to be on a moss pole either. I've seen this one grow on a plank of wood, on like a stick, on bamboo, on those like cork poles that you can get. And I've still seen it size up in leaf if that's what you want, if you want it to size up in leaf. But, oh, something just fell. Oh, it was just a piece of sphagnum moss. But this plant, this is the, wait. No, this is the newest leaf. I just think it's so cool looking. It's really starting to, what would you call that? Like fenestrate or like lobe out? I don't know. But yeah, that leaf is huge. If you like compare it to my hand. It is a very, very nice philodendron and so low maintenance. You see quite a lot of different varieties of this one. You see the Florida Ghost, what is it? The Beauty? Is it the Florida Beauty or something like that? Different like variegated forms of this plant, and I went for the green one because I wanted to just give it a try. I have decided that I do want the Florida Beauty. I don't really like the way that the Ghost grows. I mean, it's got the same growth pattern. I mean, the variegation is just not really my forte, but the Beauty is very, very pretty. And I know that obviously if a plant is variegated, it's going to be stunted a little bit because of the variegation. But this one has been so easy and low maintenance. If it's even at half of the growth rate of this one, I'm still going to be happy. It's also one that slowly climbs up a moss pole. If you're looking for a plant that you don't necessarily want it to grow very, very quickly, but you want to try a moss pole, I would definitely recommend this one. Now, I have heard that this one in other people's collections just grows a lot faster. This is, like I said, my experience. I don't give this one the best of light, and you can probably tell by the petioles, like this one. This one is incredibly long, and this one popped out when this plant was hardly getting any like good light. And you can see this is the most recent one. I think it still needs to push out like a little bit more. But the one, wait a minute, the one after this leaf is definitely shorter. But I have moved this plant to a little bit more high light. And it actually now in the autumn does also get a little bit of direct afternoon sun, just a little bit, not for long, and not really grown a fit. This is also a plant that has stood next to other plants, had pests, never got pests. The one thing is that philodendrons can get like the EFN, like the stickiness. If you've never heard of EFN, it's basically this sticky residue that forms on the back of the leaves, and the plant does that the plants do that in the wild to attract ants to ward off pests. So it is very, very normal. If you do see that, do not panic. It is very, very normal. This one doesn't get it as bad at all. I've had other philodendrons. This is probably one that gets it the least amount, to be honest. That is also the reason why I chose this one for this list, because it's because of that. I think it just makes it a lot easier and a lot more rewarding, because that stickiness can cause damage. And for someone who's beginning, it can be very, very irritating and sometimes very, sorry if you heard that, that was my dog. It can be very, very, nerve-wracking if you don't know what that is, but don't worry, that is a perfectly normal thing. But yes, as for watering, this one is very forgiving, very, very forgiving. I forget this one a lot, and it's never really given me any signs of being unhappy. So that is why this one is on this list. It's just what I think would be the perfect plant to like introduce yourself into moss poles. But even if you don't want a moss pole, this plant can still look exactly like this if you still want this result. But you can also do it on just a bamboo stick or a cork pole or whatever. So yeah, that's that one. Next up is the Epiphyllum red tip. I will insert some footage of that plant because it kind of does stab at you a little bit. Epiphyllum red tip is so easy. That plant, when I got it, it was honestly probably about, I would say 15 centimeters tall, maybe. And it has just grown into a beautiful trailing jungly plant. That's the way I would describe it, to be honest, that plant. It's just, it does scream, there's like, it's jungle vibes. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a jungle cactus, sort of. But the Epiphyllum red tip is also one that blooms. It does get really beautiful blooms. My one has not bloomed yet, and that is quite a recent addition, the red tip. I think I bought that plant in July. I'm not 100% sure. But yes, 15 centimeters, and it's already grown that much. And in the beginning, it is just like, almost looks like thick sticks that are just sticking out. The way that just the growth pattern of this plant is so satisfying. It does have a little bit of like, they don't hurt you, the little hairs, but if you rub it the wrong way, it can just like irritate your skin slightly, which is also why my one is actually hanging up, is because I do have 2 kids, and although if they touch it, it won't hurt them, it can just irritate them and kind of, it's not a very pleasant feeling, but it doesn't hurt, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's why that one is hanging up, but it's also one that I've seen people grow in very low light conditions and also in very high lights. As you can see where my one is living, that is a south-facing window, and it gets a lot of direct sun. Now actually even more in the autumn because of, the positioning of the sun and everything. We have this filtered matte screen on our front window for privacy, and that really does filter the sun for some of the plants, and I do think that it is very beneficial. So if you do have a south-facing window and you're not 100% sure that the plant is gonna, be okay there, put one of those films on. It's also really easy. It's really easy to apply and also really easy to take off, but just to kind of give a little bit of a filter if you're worried about that. But the red tip is also one that it's in quite a dense mix, to be honest. There is a lot of sand in there and perlite. I can see that in the mix. It's still in the same mix that it's in that when I bought it, so I've not changed that out. I recently had a look at the root system and it didn't give me any signs that I needed to change that out. So I just left it. It's best not to, stress the plant out if you don't need to, and if you don't need to repot it, all the better. That's less work. Watering, I probably water that plant now, since it's been getting colder, like autumn, winter, I would say every 2 weeks. You could probably go longer depending on what soil mix they are in. But in the summer, I would definitely once a week, even in periods where it was above 30 degrees and it was about 28 degrees in this room, I had to water that every 4 days. because I started to notice that the leaves became very, you'll also see with this plant that it does give you signs to water it. I would rather not wait until you see those signs. I would wait until the soil is completely dry. But if you feel on the leaves and you feel that they are still very, very plump and thick and the soil has dried out, do not water it. Wait and check again in a day or two. But if you feel like the leaves are just like a little bit thin and deflated, definitely go ahead and water that plant. Next up is this plant, and I wasn't 100% sure to put this on here because I have seen people struggle with this plant, but this is my experience and I have not had any drama with this plant. So this is a Ctenanthe burle mox. I think that's the right way you say it. But this was also a plant that I bought very, very small, and I am growing it in a medium that is probably not something that is like readily available in garden centers. I know it's not here in Belgium. I'm not 100% sure about anywhere else, but it is living, oh, it is like snug in this cover pot. I can't get it out. Okay. It is living in semi-hydro. It's not root bound. It's, yeah, roots have kind of done that because this is kind of a tall pot and they're reaching for the water in there. But I can see at the bottom, I can still see a lot of the semi-hydro. So it's not root bound or anything. But I always smell the water to make sure, but there's no rotting going on there or anything. But yeah, it's living in semi-hydro and it's very, very happy in semi-hydro. I transitioned this plant from a very, very dense mix from the garden center straight into pon. I never ever let this plant acclimate to my environment or even try and transition it to pon. Pon is semi-hydro, by the way. If I keep on saying semi-hydro or pon, they're both the same thing. I just kind of, I don't know, I can't seem to stick to a name for it. I'm just going to try and stick to semi-hydro. But yes, I did that, no precautions or anything, and it's just reacted very, very well. Gave me a lot of root growth. This is definitely a plant that it's in the same family as the Calatheas, so that's why I was kind of a little bit on the fence about it. But the Ctenanthes are definitely a lot easier. So I also have a gray one. I'm not, what is it called? A Jer? I don't know. But yeah, both of them are just very, very easy plants. And that one is living in soil and has also not given me any grief. But I've not had that one for very long. I've only had that for about 2 months. So these are plants that 100% I would recommend. But yeah, this one is just, it's so easy. It's been such a fast grower. It's also one that moves, which is really fun. At night it like kind of does a dance and the leaves kind of close up, and yeah, it's just it continuously grows. There is new shoots coming, new leaves. Light-wise, this one is living where it has quite low light conditions, to be honest. It actually used to have its own grow lights, but I needed that light for something else, so I took that away. And that's been about over 2 months and I've not seen any difference. So I've also heard that this plant would be very, very happy in a bathroom condition, which I do think, because this one does tend to like a little bit of higher humidity. But at the same time, I have not had my humidifier on for like 4 months now, and this plant is perfectly fine. There's no browning, no crusting going on. So yeah, it's very, very happy, and it's one that I would definitely recommend. It's, again, a lot, mainly if you get into this hobby, in the beginning, you kind of want like jungly vibes going on, and this one is also definitely one that like screams that out. It's got such pretty leaves, and the back of the leaves are like this dark purple sort of color. I don't really know if it's gonna like pick up very well. It's only really when you look at the bottom that it like picks up. I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, it's got like the dark purple, but it's very, very pretty plant and very rewarding to grow, to be honest. It's not shown me any sign of complaints. I just have to check that there's like no spiders in here because this has been... No, I'm good. It's because this one's been standing in the hallway. So yes, also this is another plant that you probably have seen pop up a lot online. The Sansevieria. This one, I don't quite remember the name of this one. I'll put it on screen, but it's very big already. I did buy this one already very big, but actually, I'm gonna go and get my other one. That one's like a perfect example of what I wanted to show you. Oh, this plant's a bit dusty. This was just a plant that was kind of like a filler plant, but I do really like the leaves of this one. It's, I don't know, it's very, very pretty. I do really like this one. But the reason why I wanted to show you this one is because I repotted this 3 months ago. You can see the pot is bulging. Look what's happening. Yeah, I really wanted to pot it up in a clear pot so I could see what's going on. I mean, look at that. That's insane. There's a shoot here. Oh, here we go. She's gonna start barking again. That's a new shoot there as well. All new, wow. All of those like new roots. I could probably repot this again. I don't know. I don't know a lot about Sansevieria, but I can tell you that this is positive. This is, I made this mix myself. This was with your regular succulents and cacti mix that you can buy pretty much in any garden center. But I added vermiculite, I added sand, and I added pumice to it just to make it like a little bit more airy. Because I still found that the ready mixes that you can buy in the garden center, sometimes they're not. You kind of sometimes need to add a little bit. But I also did that for me because I can sometimes overlook these plants, the Sansevieria I mean, and this one has actually been a very, very thirsty plant, which I know is not what you hear online, like at all. This has been a very thirsty plant. I've had to water this probably every 2 weeks, and usually all my other Sansevieria that I have, I've only had to water them like once a month. So I think it does have to do with the mix that I have it in. It's just obviously very, very happy, but this bulging is out of control. But anyway, the reason why this one is on this list is because it is just so easy. You can put this plant in a high light situation, a low light. Again, in low light, it will not thrive. It will survive. You know, it will, you in essence are kind of slowly killing the plant sort of if you're not giving it light, because every plant needs light. I think one of the most common questions in the garden center, I need a plant for a low light spot. And a lot of the times I say, look, the plant needs light or it's just going to very slowly die. And Sansevieria will be one of the plants that will take the longest to die. But if you're giving it no light, it will in essence just eventually die. But this one is living in my bedroom. No, sorry, this one's not living in my bedroom. That's another one I'm thinking of. This one is actually living in my propagation room, and it's on the top shelf and it gets direct sun in the afternoon. The sun is coming in now and it's directly on this plant. I can actually feel like the leaves they're warm, they're hot. I think that's probably also the reason why this one needs more water. Again, it depends on the conditions that you give the plant. You kind of have to see, but with the Sansevieria, it's best that you let this one completely dry out. And when it's completely dry, I would also still wait a little bit then. I would wait like maybe 3 to 4 days. But this one actually, none of my other Sansevieria do this one. This one actually gives me suns when it does need water. The leaves just become, I can't really show you now, but you will start to see on the leaves like almost like wrinkles on the leaves, and then you know that the plant needs, you can also feel, like if you give them a good feel, I can feel this one feels plump, firm, not flimsy. This plant is good. So, and I can also see that the soil is darker. So that's why I also would recommend clear pots, is because you can see what's going on. I can see at the top here that this is bone dry, but then if I actually look in the pots and I look at the bottom, I can see it's still a little bit dark, which means not quite ready yet. And even when it has completely dried out, I know with this plant, because of the thick leaves, they store their water in their leaves, that it'll be okay if I wait another 3 to 4 days after it's completely dried out, and it will be fine. So yes, that's that one. Very, I don't want to say it's the fastest grower, but then I came across this one and it's doing this. So it has kind of been a fast grower for me, this one. But like my other ones, they're still in the original mix that they were in from in the garden center. I've not done anything with them. I think if I change them up to this, but they're quite big, so that would take a lot of volume of soil. So I need to kind of stock up. But yeah, this one has been a lot faster than what I've been told from the Sansevieria. But it's very rewarding, and it is a very, very cool plant. It doesn't also take up a lot of room. You can kind of, you know, as you can see, it's very, very compact. So yeah, very, I don't know, I find it very rewarding to take care of. Oh no, this is another very, very big one. The next one I'll just insert footage because it's big. It's also busy working on a leaf, so I don't want to disrupt it. That is a Philodendron 69686. That's one of Mitch's plants. And by the way, if you're new on my channel and I keep on referring to Mitch's plants and my plants, Mitch is my partner and we are both plant enthusiasts, so we have to share the space. So he has his plants, which I do still take care of every now and then, but I also have my plants. I see it as a joint collection, but I don't know. I want to specifically say those are his plants because he is primarily taking care of them. So the Philodendron 69686 is a mouthful, but that plant is very rewarding to grow. It sizes up in leaf so quickly. It is also one that you do not need to put it on a moss pole. Same situation as the Florida green. You can just put it on a bamboo stick, on a cork pole or a plank or whatever you want to do. You know, be creative, do what you want to do and what you like looking at. But it's just so easy. That one is so easy. It's definitely one. If I had to say which one is the easiest out of the Florida green and the 69686, I would probably say that one, the 69686. I mean, it's so easy. It's also actually lived in outdoor conditions for most of this year. We had to put it in our back room, which is kind of like a conservatory sort of situation, but that back door is constantly open, so it's the same temperature as outside. It doesn't get direct sun, but it does get a lot of bright indirect light, and it kind of actually hardened off in there. It just, we were really struggling with space with that one. Now it is very happy where it's living, but space-wise, that one does take up more space than other plants. It's one that kind of fans out. The leaves also size up very quickly, so you know, you've got to take that into account as well. But it's also a little bit more slower when it comes to climbing, so it's not one that you would have to like chop up quickly or extend like the moss pole quickly or anything like that. It's just one that's a little bit more on the slower side. Maybe that's also because we did put it in sort of outdoor-ish conditions, but I in general think that that one is just a little bit on the slower side. We gave a pup from that plant to my mom. Jeez, sorry, my dog is like in top form today. My mom has a pup from that plant, and that one is also on the slower side. So I think it just in general is a little bit more of a slower grower, but it's very rewarding. The leaves are very rewarding, that like lobing, and it just, as it sizes up, it looks like it's got like, I always call it like the bunny ear plant. It's just, oh, it's so pretty. Again, it's all to do with preference. Some of these plants you might not like. It's, you know, what your tastes are, completely your thing and what you like and what you don't like, but maybe there's some plants here that you've not seen before. It's also one that is not very expensive. I think Mitch bought that plant, I think it was only 15 euros and it was already quite a good size. And it is also a very, very forgiving plant. It has dried out so many times. It has been knocked over so many times. My daughter has a little bit of an obsession with that plant. She likes to grab at it and knock it over. So that plant has been, it's been in the works. It's gone through a lot. It's definitely a very, very hardy one, that's for sure. If you're looking for a plant that could maybe take a good, I don't know, maybe a good whacking from a dog tail or something, I think that would be one, to be honest. It's just, it's a hardy one. It's a tough one and very rewarding to grow. I think that's a plant, if you give it low light, you will start to notice that the petioles will get longer and it will just be more spread out. Whereas if you give it light from one direction, you will see that the growth will, be uniform and be facing one direction and just have a lot more of a prettier representation. But like I said, you don't have to have it on a moss pole. You can grow this plant even trailing if you want, and I think that would also look really pretty. Same with the Florida green. I've seen people just like letting that one trail, and it looks beautiful. It's just how you want to grow them, Okay, this might drip everywhere. Last up is the Oxalis. Now, honestly, at the moment, not looking its best. It looked a lot fuller just a month ago, actually, but because of the colder temperatures, it's been living in the back room, and like I said, that room has outside temperature conditions. Well, sort of. Maybe it's like a 2 or 3 degree difference, but this plant needed to actually come inside a while ago. It's still looking nice and full, but it's looked a lot fuller. And the reason why this plant is on the list is because we bought this plant as a tuber. Yeah, these plants grow via tubes or bulbs, or what, I don't know what the right terminology is. But yeah, we bought this as I think I'm just going to say tube. I think that's what it said on the website. It was just one tube and we stuck it in the ground, and yeah, it just kind of multiplies on its own. And we have one outside at the moment now as well with one leaf. I'm obviously not going to show you that one, but that was just because of it's very, very wet, that soil now, and also it's a lot colder, so it's just died back. We need to bring it back in. This one is just in the back room, and this one has still got foliage, so it's still looking okay. I actually yesterday put it outside for a good watering so that I could bring it inside, because it has been looking very good, but since I watered it, actually it's not, I don't know, there's a little bit of brown tips from cold damage. But this plant is also a plant that does not stop blooming. And if you love blooms, I would highly recommend this plant. So I can show you here, as you can see there, those are the blooms. They've not opened yet, but they're very, very pretty. Very, very pretty. And there are so many, I mean, look here as well. Even this plant being under high amounts of stress from the cold, it's even blooming then, It's so easy. And bringing this one inside now, it's going to bloom even more. It hasn't stopped. It just blooms all year round. And that definitely is also due to light. So if you give this plant a lot of high light, we give this plant direct sun, but I would definitely acclimate a little bit. If you are bringing this plant home from the garden center, you can put it in full sun, but I would still keep an eye on the plant, because if it's coming from the garden center, they're not used to direct sunlight there. It's obviously, it's a greenhouse, so all the plants they get high indirect bright light, but they don't get direct sunlight. So I would definitely be a little bit careful, because this plant does have very, very delicate leaves. They're very, very thin. They are also ones, this one also moves. It also does like a little dance, like the leaves kind of close up at night, which is also really, really cool. And it's just a plant that really stands out in your collection. The fuchsia purpley colors, it's so beautiful. And then the coloring of the really, really almost, I don't want to say white, I would say like lilac, like they're really light lilac color. The blooms, it's so beautiful. It really is beautiful and so easy. It multiplies on its own. You don't have to do anything. It's a plant that's a little bit more on the thirstier side, so I would put it in a more dense mix. And even then, because we put this one on the south-facing window in autumn and winter. However, we don't have room for that this year, so we're gonna have to see. But either way, I'll probably go in the propagation room, and I'll put this one on a top shelf where it does get direct sun, because I know that this one all summer has been standing in direct sun. It was at certain points looking a little bit beaten up, but that is due to having a couple of heat waves and not watering on time. My partner, we both work in garden centers, so our job there is also to take care of plants. So it's sometimes is a little bit difficult coming home and then having to take care of our plants as well. So some of the plants outside did take a little bit of a beating from the heat waves, but you know, it still survived, it still bounced back, it still didn't really give us much of a fuss, and still blooms. So if you want to keep this one inside all year round, I would definitely recommend a very bright spot, and it will be very happy and continuously bloom for you, continuously become thicker, fuller, and yeah, just be a really fun, cool plant. I don't know, I really like this one. It's different to like the typical alocasia or calathea, or you know, like the typical plants that you see in the garden center. However, you do see this one a lot more in garden centers here, so it's definitely coming up, that's for sure. Okay, so those are the 10 plants that I would highly recommend if you are starting off and you're entering this crazy world of plants. I know that if you go on YouTube and you watch all of the, you know, the big YouTubers with their big collections, and well, then again, even me, I'm starting off in YouTube, and I also have a very big collection. I also sell plants, trade plants. I love propagating, so I always have extras. I've kind of made it a rule to have backups of plants as well, which is also very space consuming. It's not easy, and we have a very small house that we are also renovating, and we also have 2 small children. So one is 2 and one is 1. So a lot of toys everywhere and a lot of running around and having to watch the plants because they like to put their hands in them and everything. So in the beginning, I definitely didn't take into account of kids or anything. It was kind of just, you know, you could put the plants anywhere and it was okay. Now it's a lot more difficult, because I'm going to give you a perfect example. If you look right next to me, this is my kitchen island. And it's just full of plants. Primarily, these are plants that I'm propagating and getting ready to like trade or sell, or make my plants fuller, you know, things like that. So that's why it looks full like this, but I actually want to do something about it and move them somewhere else, because it's a little bit stressful whenever we want to eat or whenever we have people around. That is the state of our kitchen island. So, you know, in the beginning, you're going to want to get all of the plants. I know, I've been there, I've done it. There were certain points in the beginning where I was buying plants every single week, but I also have a video on my tips for you beginner plant parents. Definitely go ahead and watch that video. It's, I hope, very useful, but there are definitely tips that I wish that I knew when I was starting off. And yeah, I hope that you take what I've said today into consideration. The number one tip that I can give you, and I will probably make a video on plants that you should avoid in the beginning, but if you are going to the garden center after this and you're going to look for any of these plants that I've shown you today, the one tip that I'm going to give you is do not go home with a calathea. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself, because you will get disheartened very quickly and you will want to give up as a plant parent. Just don't do it, okay? I know they're beautiful, I know they're stunning, but don't do it. You will thank me. And you will get to a point where you feel confident that you can go for a calathea and you can give it a try. And if you've given it a good try, let me know, because I've not quite sussed them out either. And I've been doing this for almost 4 years. So I don't know how to say it. You cannot be all-knowing when it comes to plants. You can't be all-knowing with most things, to be honest. But when it comes to plants, it doesn't matter if you're a botanist and you've been studying for so many years, or you've been a grower for so many years. There will always be things that you're not going to know. There will always be tips or tricks that you might not be aware of. That is also a reason why I wanted to start YouTube, is there is a lot of tips and tricks that in the beginning I didn't know, and I kind of learned along the way, and you kind of learn through trial and error. And I want to share those tips, and I want to help other plant parents out, which is also the reason why I made this video. But, I just want to make sure that you go into this not feeling overwhelmed and have the information that you need to kind of set you up, not for success, but just a little bit more of a smoother ride. Because you can go to a garden center, and a lot of the times, like I said, me and my partner, we both work in garden centers. People will go home with an alocasia or a calathea, and they will be so disheartened because that plant will go downhill, or something will go wrong, or that both of those plants are very, very sensitive just in general. So they will be disheartened and not want plants anymore, when there are so many plants out there that can give you the same satisfaction that you want, the same joy that you want, but it'd be really, really easy. And plant care doesn't have to be hard. You don't need to have the most difficult plant that there is, which in my opinion is Calathea. You don't need to have that plant if it doesn't suit you, and that's okay. Appreciate it from afar. That's what I do. Whenever I go to a garden center, I always go and look at the Calatheas, because they're beautiful, but I know they won't stay beautiful in my collection. I only have 2 Calatheas, and one of them is really, really struggling, that I'm trying to make on the mend. The other one is doing perfectly fine, but I also give that one a little bit more TLC than I do with my other plants. So, I'm rambling. I'm like going off on a tangent. It's just, I'm so passionate about this, and it just excites me that you are a beginner plant parent and you've just entered this world. I find it so exciting, and I know that feeling of when you go to a garden center and you want to buy all the plants, and it's just such it's actually giving me goosebumps. It's such an exciting feeling, and they can bring you so much joy, and plants for me have been my salvation. So I hope that you have fun in your journey, and yeah, join me on my journey. We can help each other out. If there's any tips on any of my videos that I say, and you think of something else that I've not mentioned, comment them down below. Like, don't hesitate. We'll help each other out and all that. If you enjoyed this video, if it was useful, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do. If you're new here, come along with me on the journey. I can come along with you on your journey and help you out and give you any tips where I can. I am pretty good at replying in my comments, and also on Instagram. You can look me up on Instagram as well if you want to message me or anything, or if you have any questions. I've had people reach out to me and give me really useful tips with plants on Instagram. So yeah, this is all a community. We can all help each other out and get the most out of plant care, because it's a lot to take in sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't have to be, this big thing. Sometimes plant care needs to be fun, and you need to make it as enjoyable for you as you want, So yes, please do subscribe. It's for free. Come and join me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.